Hi friends, good morning all of you. Welcome back to today's class. In the last class, we have discussed about human wants and its features. I think you are clear with the concepts. We have discussed what is a human want and what are the characteristics features of human wants. We have discussed around 7 points there, and you have read the chapter and you made it clear. Today we will discuss about other economic terms. First of all, we will see the first concept, that is consumption. The term consumption, that is right, consumption. Consumption. What is meant by consumption? Here, in this particular point, we know that in order to consume one commodity, we need a consumer. So first of all, we come to know that who is a consumer? Who is a consumer? The one who consumes goods and services. Isn't so? Yeah. Consumer is a person, or consumer can be an individual who consume the goods and services. Who consume, which means doesn't matter you need to have it or you need to consume it. Sometimes those goods and services can be utilized or used, which is also known as consumption. So first of all, we must know who is known as a consumer. A consumer is a person, a consumer is an individual who consumes goods and services, right? Okay. Now we will come to know what are the difference between, or what is the main difference between goods and services. What is mean by goods? Let me tell you, commodities are necessary to satisfy human wants. Commodities are necessary to satisfy human wants. Therefore, commodities can be divided into two categories. What are the two categories of commodities? Commodities are very essential to satisfy human wants, which can be categorized into two groups. These divisions are goods and services. Goods. So consumption, then consumer. Consumer, then goods. In place of goods, we will write commodities. Commodities can be two types: goods and services. Goods and services. What are known as goods? A consumer is required all those commodities which are able to, or which uses to satisfy the human wants. These commodities can be classified into two categories: goods and services. What are called goods? Goods are tangible or material things. Goods are tangible. What is tangible? The items which we can touch. The items which we can touch, it is a tangible item. This chalk piece is a tangible, which we can see and touch, which we can utilize, which we can use. So, goods are tangible or material things, such as, namely, we can say all the things around us. Tangible. It's a very simple term. So, those commodities are termed as goods. Now, what is meant by services? Services are not tangible, they are non-tangible. What is non-tangible? Things such as education, medical care, okay, the professional services, teaching is a service, banking is a service, shipping is service, communication, service. So this type of services are provided towards the people to satisfy their wants. I think you are clear. Commodities are essential to satisfy human wants. Being a consumer must get all these types of commodities, which can be categorized into two: goods and services. Goods are tangible, services are intangible. Is that clear? So this is what is called commodities. Now what is consumption? Consumption. What is consumption? Here we have to come to the definition of consumption. What is consumption? Consumption is the act of using goods and services to satisfy human wants. What is called consumption? Consumption is the act of using goods and services. You can write the act of using goods and services. For what purpose? To satisfy the human wants. To satisfy human wants. Consumption is the act of using goods and services to satisfy human wants. I think I am clear to you. Okay? So we have discussed the first concept, that consumption. So what is meant by consumption? The act of using goods and services are to satisfy human wants are called consumption. In order to satisfy the human wants, we are in need of commodities. Commodities are two categories: one, goods, and second one, services. Goods are tangible in nature, tangible, and services are intangible, right? And one who uses these commodities is known as a consumer. Clear? I think clear. Okay, then we move to the next concept. The first concept is consumption. Now the second one we will see sustainable consumption. You can write sustainable. Sustainable consumption. Sustainable consumption. What is meant by sustainable consumption? Sustainable consumption is, okay, I define sustainable consumption is the consumption of goods and services. Consumption of goods and services which meets the needs of people. Which meets the needs of the people and improves what? The quality of life without having any adverse impact over the environment and the needs of the future generation. The goods and services which helps a person to satisfy their own wants without any adverse impact over the environmental and the needs of the people. This is called sustainable consumption. Sustainable consumption, we must make sure certain commodities while we consuming, the presence or the quantity of that commodity diminishes. For example, if you use any goods like a natural resources, for example quarrying or fishing or mining, okay, or agriculture. For example, a farmer, a particular area is used for doing the agriculture activity. Continuous agriculture activity, whatever happens on that particular field, sometimes leads to diminishes or depletes the the productivity of the land. The fertility of the land can be decreased. So after utilizing one product continuously many times, then we are very clear with sometimes that may create damage in it. If you use one particular commodity, if you use a mobile phone continuously every day, every hour, then definitely that make some depreciations, wear and tear, so that it will be outdated. So such a way, when we use one commodity continuously, the pattern of consumption should be in such a way, then there can be a problem that the availability of those goods may be less. So sustainable consumption must make sure, or it teaches us that we must make sure that those goods and services not only for the consumption of the present generation, but we are responsible towards our followers or the coming generation, which means they must also enjoy the presence of those goods which we used. For a simple example, I could say that you are studying, you are just passed from the class 10, and the last class you might have sometimes, for example, you might have made some disturbances or some turbulences factor in the class while we celebrate the last session. Then some dust and benches and damage happened, and those benches and dust cannot be utilized for the coming generation, your followers. We are responsible. The natural gift, the use of water, okay, whatever I need, water I have used and lavishly, then the rest water I made it unclean, okay, dirty. So I am responsible, okay, with my negligence, with my negative attitude, I made that particular thing which is not good for drinking. So I am very responsible person that I must make sure my next generation also to be utilize those commodities. Sustainable development in that category. Sustainable consumption must be like that. The consumption pattern of those commodities, okay, that they should not affect any adverse effect to the economy, or it should not adversely affect the future generations. Are you clear? Are you getting me? Yeah. Sustainable consumption also implies that the consumption of current generations and as well as the future generation should improve the quality. Should improve the quality. We are responsible. Who is responsible for that? We are responsible. We must make sure that the present utilized commodities must be also available for the future generations. That is called sustainable consumption. Yeah. Then what is the significance of this sustainable consumption? It's a role. Consumption is the primary function for economic activities. All our economic activity. Why do we do economic activities? Why are we so much interested in doing economic activity? I have told you to earn little income. And what is the need of income? It is for the consumption purpose. It is for the consumption purpose. Earn money and immediately spend money, not any other purpose. So such a way that shows the significances. Or else if we say consumption is the end purpose of all economic activity. All my economic efforts, okay, are being used by myself is for the purpose. What is the purpose? My main purpose to be satisfied with my human wants with those commodities. Therefore, consumption could be considered as the end purpose, at the end, at the last. That would be the purpose. Okay, to satisfy all my economic activities. Consumption is the index of standard of living. How could consumption be an index to the standard of living? What is an index? It is a pointer. When we observe a person's consumption pattern, for example, in your cases, the normal citizen, people are in different category with a different level of income. Okay, we commonly know in our colonies that we have a division like LIG, HIG and MIGs, you know? Yes, maybe many of you may be, your house is in LIG or you may be in MIG. What is LIG and MIG? Lower income group middle income group and higher income group. The society is being divided into different classes according to the level of income. So somebody is, though the consumption pattern is too high, means if the person continuously uses luxurious items, more luxurious items than that of the comforts and necessities, we can easily say that that is the standard, that consumption pattern shows he is rich. He is a rich person because he daily uses such lavish life, cozy life. So such a life shows his standard, his income level. So consumption pattern, while observing the consumption pattern, the person, the small boy, the one who uses the daily workers, they may eat the chapati or roti and curry. Whereas other people, they may utilize some veg or non-veg in a high luxurious way. So their income level is different. So while seeing the consumption pattern, the consumption method, we can easily identify those people. So this is why it is told, it is an index. It's a pointer, you can easily identify, right? The consumption is the basis of economic welfare. What is economic welfare? Why do we consume the commodity? For our welfare, for our well-being. It is for the well-being of a particular section or everyone. That is necessary. We are in need of those commodities just to survive. In order to survive, in order to fulfill all our wants, we are in need of consumption. So consumption is the basic economic welfare. The basic, if you are properly provided with the proper nutrition levels of foods, you are being well, you are well-being. Your position is good. On the other hand, if you are not given the proper meal, you are in a vicious circle of poverty. You may not be able to overcome the poverty. In the whole life, you will be considered as a poor people. So consumption has an important role. To understand or to identify the people's standard of living, right? Then we come to the next term is utility. You can also write the next term is utility. Utility is also called utility. Utility. What is utility? What is utility? What is utility? In a simple sense, in a mere definition, we can say, I have told you, goods and services will be purchased for the consumption purpose only. Why do we purchase goods and services? Goods and services will be purchased for consumption, only for the consumption, if they possess utility. Excuse me. Why do we consume, or why do we purchase a particular commodity? It is because those commodities may have utility. Therefore, we compel to consume, we compel to purchase the commodity. So, utility means what? Or util means what? Utility refers to the want satisfying power of a commodity. We can write utility is want satisfying power. Want satisfying power. Want satisfying power of a commodity. Want satisfying power of a commodity. What is utility? Utility refers to the want satisfying power of the commodity. It is the capacity, it is the ability of a commodity to satisfy human wants. Ability of a commodity. If this particular item, if this chalk piece has a utility, what is its utility? This item has the ability to satisfy one of my wants. What is my want? To write. So this particular item helps me. It helps me to satisfy one of my wants. So therefore, that capacity, that want satisfying power of this commodity is known as my utility, my satisfaction. After consume, after the use of one commodity, I am getting a satisfaction which I can express. I cannot show. Okay, for example, just after watching a film, if somebody asks you, what about the film? How you enjoyed? Okay, then we say, yeah, definitely the film is very super duper hit. Because the satisfaction that you have got is much more than the price that you spend for getting a ticket. So your satisfaction level is too high. So this is that capacity of a commodity is known as utility. Clear? Is that clear? Okay. So utility, which means every commodity has the capacity to satisfy the human wants. The case of chapati, or in the case of a bread piece or a banana, that has the power to satisfy humans' hunger. Therefore, we know such a type of capacity of one commodity is known as its a utility. Want satisfying power of a commodity. Clear? Now we will discuss some of the features of utility. What are the features? The first feature is right here. Features. The first one is utility is subjective. Utility is subjective. You can write utility is subjective. What is meant by utility is subjective? What is subjective? Utility is subjective. That is, it cannot be observed or it cannot be shown. The utility, the satisfaction that you got after consuming one commodity cannot be estimated. You cannot show the amount. It is a subjective in nature. It is a hypothetical approach. When I use one apple or when I eat one food item, one fruit, kind of fruit, what is the utility, what is my satisfaction that I earn from consuming a commodity cannot be, I can only express it but I cannot show it. I can just show that the satisfaction is okay with my facial expressions. So good, super. That is my utility. You cannot show it. It is a subjective in nature. What satisfaction I have got after consuming one apple will not be equal to what is your satisfaction. The same apple, the same thing, if you have taken, what I have got, I may say very good. But you may say it's not that much good, it is okay, normal. The satisfaction level is subjective in nature. It is hypothetical in approach. Okay, so that is what utility is subjective. The second point is utility is not measurable. The second point is it is not measurable. Utility is not measurable. Utility is not measurable. We cannot measure it. Then how do we express? It is, as already I have told you, utility is subjective in nature and therefore it is not measurable. Utility changes from person to person, place to place, time to time. Okay, some situation, emergency situation, your utility, your satisfaction may be high. Sometimes you are not in need, then again your parents are compelled to eat or do something. Okay, even if you are not in necessary, you are compelled to do. So your satisfaction is very poor in nature. So this is vary time to time, person to person. Okay, goods to goods. So this is what it is not measurable. But according to Alfred Marshall said that sometimes the amount of money that an individual spend on acquiring or to get a particular item will be can be taken as the measurement of utility. Marshall said that sometimes, okay, people can, how can I, there can be a question. What's the question arise here? How will you calculate the utility? Suppose you have spent 10,000 rupees to purchase one mobile. Okay, the latest mobile, 50,000 rupees you have spent to get a Japanese product. Okay, latest iPhone. If somebody asks you what is your utility by purchasing that product, what would you say? The utility, according to Alfred Marshall, the Marshall says that whatever the amount that you spend to acquire that particular commodity, 50,000 rupees is the amount that you spent to get to that, will be equals to your utility. That would be the utility, that would be the satisfaction that you have got by consuming or by purchasing that item. So in such a way, sometimes utility can be measurable as per the theory of Marshall. Okay. So next point you will see, utility is relative. Third one is, it is relative in nature. Utility is relative. What is meant by relative? It is relative to person's need, same thing. Therefore, it varies from person to person. It varies from person to person. It changes from time to time. It also makes the changes in the quantity, the satisfaction from one person to another person. Therefore, we can say it is relative in nature. Is that clear? Okay. Then also you remember that utility is not constant. Utility is not constant. I told you that utility varies from place to place, time to time, person to person. Therefore, utility is not constant. It is not fixed. According to your idea, according to your satisfaction, it can vary. I told you what I have got, the satisfaction will not be same after consuming the same type of commodity of you. No. There it can be varying. So therefore, it is relative in nature. And the next point, utility is different from usefulness. The fourth one you can write, utility is, it is different from, it is differ from usefulness. Usefulness. Utility is differ from usefulness. What is meant by usefulness? A commodity, remember, a commodity may possesses utility even though it may not be useful. A commodity must have utility, okay, even though it may not be useful. Certain situation, when a consumer consumes one commodity, sometimes that is not useful, but it may give you some satisfaction. For instance, if you see that a drunkard or a loser uses alcohol, or the chain smoker uses cigarettes, both the items it is very clearly written what is. Smoking cigarette is injurious to health, or consumption of alcohol is injurious to health. It may not be, okay, there can be utility, but it is not useful. Is it useful that you need to smoke daily? No. Is it necessary that you need to drink some hot drinks like alcohol consumption? No. But it possesses utility. So we can say that utility is different from usefulness. Okay? Certain commodity must or that possesses its uses, but it is not compulsory or it is not useful towards you. So this way, this differences you can see. So sometimes it may or may not be used. Clear? So in such a way, utility is different from usefulness. Next point we will say, no moral or legal connotations. Fifth point we will say that it has no moral connotations, no moral interpretations or interpretations. or interpretation. No moral interpretation. What does it mean? No moral interpretations. It says that it is neutral. It is neutral between good and bad. It is neutral. Okay, between good and bad, or between useful and harmful. I told you, smoking cigarette is injurious to health. So it is harmful. So there can be a connotation. The interpretation is the goods, the use of those goods can be good, can be bad, useful. Okay. So in such a way, it is considered as a neutral. Okay. Or in a simple example, if you take eating eggs. Okay, eating eggs may be a religious taboo for some persons. But in the case of a non-vegetarian, those people, they are in need of egg. They don't have any problem. So this way is differentiated. Are you clear? So this features we have discussed here. We have studied about utility and its features. Okay, so by this features we will wind up today's class, and by the next class we may continue with another concepts. Okay, bye.